Welcome to the Legit Football NFL podcast. Brian McFadden here, co-founder of Legit Football. It's Friday, April 21st, 2023. We are less than a week, 6 days away from the 2023 NFL Draft, which is, the first round is next Thursday. We are here still doing a month long of nothing but draft content. We did the AFC top draft needs on Monday. We're going to do the NFC top draft needs today. And as always, I'm not doing it alone. Let's bring in my partner in crime, Kevin Phillip Fox.
What up?
I was pausing for the walk-up music. Anthony was a little slow on the draw.
Ready.
Yeah.
Born ready.
So is the purple light there? It looks a little darker. Is there like mood lighting going on with you now, Kevin?
Let's see. Maybe it's just not cranked. Oh, there we go, baby. You
That's
feeling
a little
that?
better. That's a little better.
Purple? All right,
That's
there
all
we
right.
go.
You
I'm
got
ready to
a
roll.
different hairstyle. You got going for the bun today,
Dude, we're doing a later show, so believe it or not, I'm actually boogieing from here straight to my my Survivor job, my day job. Right. So I gotta look a little presentable, you know.
Hey, yeah, well, if anybody watches your daily vids, you purposely have a different style each time. So
That's what I'm going for. You already know. Yeah, of course.
We're here for it. We
get
did the AFC single draft needs on Monday. We had a special wheel that we didn't quite come up with the name with.
So fun.
Since has been brought to our attention that at least 2 or 3 other shows did wheels after us. Kevin
They copied us.
had to have been.
Yeah,
Had to have been. But
100%.
we have to do the other side, the other conference, the NFC. And I'm glad that we shifted this back because we got to get our man Adrian all the way in from Australia. It's actually daytime where he is now, so I'm hoping it for an even extra level. He always gives us 100%, but
Right
a little
on,
extra
bushy-tailed.
level energy. Anthony, are you going to bring him in, or am I just going to keep talking about him? Let's bring in Adrian Rovito. There we go. I see
Good
sunlight,
guy.
Adrian. I see actual natural light coming into your room.
It's unnatural. I feel weird talking about football with sun in the background, but it's good. It's good.
I'm going to be straight, Adrian. If your analysis is worse today, we're going to move it back to 4 a.m. for you.
Well, I can tell you there's some Baker Mayfield takes coming in hot. So
I'm
probably headed back to 4
Hey,
a.m.
well, how come you're not wearing your Baker Mayfield jersey, bro? I thought you got a Baker Mayfield Bucks jersey.
Oh, it's pre-order. Yeah, pre-order.
gonna say, I'm waiting
Delivery
for
times
it.
to Australia.
It's Australia. The shipping takes longer there.
We
Right?
operate on carrier pigeons. It's weird. Yeah. So
The jersey says Baker with a U. in it.
yeah.
They have to make sure they don't get eaten by great white sharks, the carrier pigeons, or like the kangaroos will snap them right
Kangaroos
out of the
get
air.
picked.
Yeah. So,
Yeah.
Everything will
Have
kill
it.
you here. Everything.
all right, Adrian, you know what we did on Monday? We did the top single draft needs for every AFC team. We're going to do NFC today because we know you're a Packers fan. So, spoiler alert, the Packers are on your list. Just as we did it on Monday, we've each got 5 teams for a total of 15, and we will let our producer Anthony go and do the 16th. For those that have watched or listened to the show before, zero surprise which team he's going to do. But as always, let's go ahead and start with some legit headlines. So these are headlines that have been pulled from recent editions of the Legit Football newsletter. And no surprise, there's some juicy ones that we're going to jump into before we get to our main topic. Let's start with perhaps the juiciest, Kevin. You actually made a video about this one. 49ers are fielding trade calls on quarterback Trey Lance. The details, according to Ian Rappaport, the 49ers have taken calls from multiple teams interested in trading for Lance. He did specify they have not made the calls, they have received the calls, but the fact that this is out there in the public is noteworthy. San Francisco views Brock Purdy as its quarterback of the future. Of course, he is recovering from that UCL surgery that was a repair, not a reconstruction, which is important for his recovery timeline. Kyle Shanahan also excited about signing free agent Sam Darnold. So all this comes around to say that Mike Florio has reporting that the Vikings has expressed interest, Kevin, in Lance at the NFL Combine in March. Cousins entering the final year of his contract. You mentioned a few teams on your video, Kevin, so I want to start with you on this. Take it wherever you want. Is this smoke? Is there legitimacy? Your thoughts?
Well, I think there's no question that there's legitimacy given that the NFL draft is a week away. So I think everybody's fielding calls on everyone. You know, that's kind of a cliche, but I think it's true. And when you have a former third overall pick,
fielding calls, and then you answer the phone. Yep, not trading him. Like
Right.
field, the word field is different.
it does feel like there's
you
a
haven't
little,
shut people down.
yeah, and I think that's legitimate given the fact that Trey Lance has the draft pedigree. He has the traits and the tools. And Brock Purdy is a stud. We all know that. We all watched the last half of the regular season or the last couple games of the season and the playoffs. This dude, he's a winner, and he fits that offense so
Especially
well.
in that offense, yeah.
Perfect. It's such a perfect fit. And so I don't think there's any question that it's legit. I was looking at teams like the Titans and teams like the Raiders, teams that are either in quarterback purgatory or teams that have quarterbacks who are in the later stages of their career.
Well, not
Because
just that. The Titans' new general manager, Ron Carthon, came from the Niners. There is a connection there.
absolutely. And it feels like a great fit given what we've seen Ryan Tannehill do back when he was kind of more spry, kind of more in his prime, moving the ball with his legs a lot. I think Trey Lance would be very effective in that offense. And I think it's a no-brainer I know we talked about asset allocation, and I know that Kyle Shanahan thinks that that's for the birds, especially given the quarterback situations he's found himself in. But if they believe in Darnold as a legitimate, quarterback option, then I don't see why you wouldn't move on from Trey Lance, given that you could probably recoup at least a second round pick, maybe more for him at this stage of his career, given that he's so, he's an unknown right now. Thank you.
Sizzling.
You have to,
Sizzling.
right? Because they gave up a haul, if you guys remember, to get Trey Lance, and
Yeah.
then Brock Purdy's come in, he's done the job.
I remember as a Dolphins fan, I was on the other side of that. So yeah.
And the thing is, it's nice to have three quarterbacks because obviously he's I'm sure Shanahan's still traumatized from his injuries last year, but at the end of the day, you need 1 and 2. A third is a luxury, and I feel like they could probably put that that draft capital into something better. So you'd have to, at the very least, not shut down calls, because if you're going to get a high second, why wouldn't you?
Well, that's the question. What kind of draft capital is he getting? So I think the fact that this is out there, they're fielding calls, means they'll entertain the right offer. But what is the right offer? This is a guy who was a number 3 overall pick. San Francisco, as you mentioned, Adrian, traded a lot to get him in the first place. Very much a physical talent, traitsy quarterback, Kevin, which I know always
favorite.
Sets off your radars.
Love those.
But this is a guy who has had 2 off seasons, has had some injury troubles, some reports in camp that he wasn't that accurate, and then got beat out. Granted, he was hurt, but a 7th round Mr. Irrelevant last pick in the draft came in and executed the offense better than he had up to that point. Is there still room for a team like the Niners to get high end, like Adrian mentioned a second, for a guy like Trey Lance?
It's fair to ask, right? Because he's not really proven, is he? He's flashed and all that sort of thing. But if Brock Purdy, and not taken away from him because he obviously delivered as well. I honestly think Sam Darnold will do quite well in Shanahan's offense. I think it's so quarterback friendly that people will be taking a risk to give up a second for him. But I guess that's my point, is that you field calls, maybe you get it. We've seen crazier trades than a second for Trey Lance.
Definitely. I don't want to sound, this might sound, I'm just going to say it. He hasn't really had a chance to flash, in my opinion. It's 2.5 games, maybe. And imagine any quarterback in their first 2.5 starts. I mean, look at Justin Fields. It took him, 20 starts to start showing some flashes. It took Josh Allen 32 starts to start showing some flashes. I don't really think the jury can confidently be one way or the other on Trey Lance. And I've always respected Brian's take of there's the practice stuff, there's the preseason stuff, there's the little that we've seen. But I just think that quarterbacks like Trey Lance, who were admittedly had a way to go to begin with, they do require that patience. They do require that extra time. So I think it's crazy to say we already know he's negative. I think if anything, the uncertainty works in the 49ers' favor in negotiations.
So I have a question for you guys. Here's a fun thought exercise. There's been a lot of smoke. Maybe it's legit, maybe it's not. I'm starting to think it might be legitimate that the Texans are not all that high on CJ Stroud and therefore may not be wanting to take a quarterback at number 2 overall. They've got 2 first-round picks next year. They've got a second. All I did was talk. I haven't even made the argument, but thank you, Anthony, for the sound. They got 2/3 this year. They've got 2 first and a second. They've got 2 first and I think 2 seconds next year. A lot of that is part of the Deshaun trade. Would they be interested in throwing a second for a guy like Trey Lance? And if it goes well,
okay,
yeah. Thank you, Robot Kevin. You've got D'Amico Ryans, right? Connection there, San Francisco. You've got the capital that if it goes horribly wrong, you can still go for a Drake May or Caleb Williams next year. And if it goes right, you got a starting quarterback, first round talent for a second round pick.
I love it. I think that's a great call, Brian. I really do. I mean,
good. He said it's right. It's going to happen. Let's move on to the next.
Yeah. If you're only giving up a second rounder and you have the chance to have a player with Trey Lance's pedigree and Trey Lance's tools, given that you're already not sold on any of the QBs at 2, which I think is a little, I think it makes sense. We talk about the cost of your guy, right? Now, on the flip side of that, you don't have to take a guy if you don't have a guy. That's completely fine. It's okay to kick the can down the road for a year. I mean, Brian, you and I talk a lot about it's always a good thing to buy extra lottery tickets, increase your odds that you're going to hit on a quarterback.
And think about this from a contract standpoint. If you're the Texans and you pay a second round pick, you're getting a first round quarterback contract, which gives you that 5th year option. Like, what if he does hit? Then you traded a second round pick for a guy and get the 5th. Like, there's a bonus there.
There's a lot there.
Adrian's shaking your head.
That'd be no. That's shaking up and down. It's just Australia. It's weird.
It's Australia. Everything's backwards.
I think you nailed it. Like, and it all depends. I mean, I say often, like, I think teams know a lot more than what we know, obviously, about these players. They know what they're like behind the scenes. So if D'Amico Ryans is a fan, that makes perfect sense. And there is a lot of smoke around the Texans not taking a quarterback at number 2, which I don't know if I fully believe, but this to me, like, it wouldn't shock me if this happened. I would be like, okay, well, D'Amico Ryans sees something in him. They don't like anyone in the draft this year. This makes smart sense.
Well, we've got another mock draft coming up on Monday with trades, Kevin. So we'll have to see.
Can't wait.
Whichever one of us will have to figure out the logistics decides to take CJ Stroud at number 2 or trade back. Let's go ahead and stay in the quarterback conversation and the draft conversation. Let's move on to our next legit headline. Hype is growing. It's funny how this draft season works, right? These guys dropped and their hype comes. It's like a roller coaster. Hype is growing around Will Levis, not Anthony Richardson, not CJ Stroud. Will Levis and the Colts at number 4. 2 NFL Network analysts with high-level sources, Daniel Jeremiah and Peter Schrager, have heard that Levis has a real chance of going 4th overall to the Colts. Jeremiah said on Thursday, quote, "There are a lot of people in the league that you talk to, GMs, head coaches, that just feel like Will Levis is a good fit with Indianapolis." He thinks the Colts and Levis graded higher, or have Levis graded higher than Anthony Richardson. Schrager put out a similar message indicating people around the league have told him not to, quote, sleep on Will Levis and the Colts. Adrian, I'll start with you on this one. It's all speculation at this point. We've seen Bryce Young wasn't going to go. CJ Stroud was going to go number 1 overall. CJ Stroud was going to go number 2. CJ Stroud's not going to go in the top 10. Will Levis might fall out of the top 10. Will Levis is going to number 4. Anthony Richardson is the next quarterback messiah. Anthony Richardson is the next Malik Willis. We're hearing it all, but we still need to give a take.
Totally. Will Levis is a weird one, right? Yeah, it is. It is well put, because if you look at mocks, Will Levis is kind of one of those ones. Some have him falling out of the first round, which I don't buy that. But like, I think he's got, when you watch his tape, he's kind of like up and down. So he's got all the talents. He's got the strong arm. He's got like a really sturdy build, and he's got those physical traits.
He looks like he was built at a QB factory, right? He just looks like the blonde hair, blue eyes, big build, cannon arm.
Yep.
And I know he didn't score super well on the S2 test, and that's kind of the flavor of the month at the moment. Not to say
actually Levis did. It was Stroud who didn't. Levis scored a
Stroud.
I thought he was
allegedly. Levis scored a 93.
Yeah. Sorry. When I say not well, I mean I can't compare everyone to Bryce Young, because I know Bryce Young got like a 98. But like, like I think that the S2 test kind of gets taken into account heaps at the moment. It's sort of the thing they're doing, and He makes some like amazing plays if you watch his tape, but then he also makes some bad decisions. So you can see why he'd be a project. I think all of this only happens if CJ Stroud and Bryce Young go to 1 and 2. If they don't, I think the Colts are jumping at that.
My thoughts on Levis, based on what I've read, heard, seen, everything. I don't like a quarterback who had such a drop off from 21 to 22. 2021, his production, people were talking about him as the first overall pick. He did lose some talent in 2022 in Kentucky, but he started pressing. A lot of the mistakes are pretty bad mistakes. Some of his interceptions are just kind of boneheaded. And is that a guy who's going to try? He doesn't lift his team, right? He's not a guy who's going to lift the team around him, and that's worrisome. But if the Colts are a fit, Kevin, I guess, once again, like you said, they have a lot more information than we have.
Yeah, I do like Levis a lot given the traits and tools. I will say that until I'm blue in the face. I absolutely love traits and tools. But, that's easy for me to say because I'm not the one who has to lose my job if I'm wrong. You know what I mean? I'm an optimist. And I've learned that through draft season. I've kind of learned that I always tend to lean on because, there's always both sides, right? There's the positive scouting report and there's the negative scouting report. I tend to look for the positives and prospects, I find. And I think that as I refine my draft analysis, maybe next draft season, I'll find my curmudgeon side. But right now, I'm like, I want to like everybody.
I don't think you have a curmudgeon side.
I don't
Kevin.
think so either. Eventually, I'll find it. But for now, I'm just gonna like everybody. But naturally, I'll like Fitz more. And I like the Colts at 4, given what they need and given what their offense can be with a great quarterback. I like Richardson more at 4
I do
because
too.
of ceiling.
Same.
I just think his ceiling's
and
higher.
Steichen, I don't know. He just worked with those mobile quarterbacks. I understand that Levis is actually more mobile than people really talk about. He's actually quite mobile, but not. Richardson's on a whole nother level, right?
Richardson, athleticism, there's no question, right?
Richardson can be a Michael Vick, Lamar Jackson type. He can.
I saw this Daniel Jeremiah thing was really interesting. I'm sorry, Tom Pelissero put out an article today about the anonymous conversations he's had, and I was in a scout or an executive who basically said like Anthony Richardson is Michael Vick's speed and Cam Newton's body. Mm-hmm. It's just like that's now talk about quarterback factories. That is insane.
He can be right up there with the best rushing quarterbacks in the game right off the bat.
So I want to stay with the draft, but move on to our last legit headline so we can get to our main topic. Albert Breer thinks the Eagles will look to trade down from pick number 10. Breer thinks the Eagles will trade down unless a, quote, too good to pass up prospect falls to them. This is going to lead right into our top draft needs. Breer considers prospect like Georgia defensive tackle Jalen Carter, Illinois defensive back Devin Witherspoon, or Oregon cornerback Christian Gonzalez as in that too good to pass up category. Rationale here, due to the size of Jalen Hurts' new contract, the Eagles are going to need to start filling out their roster with players on affordable rookie contracts, meaning they're going to need to accumulate more picks by trading out of 10. They also have a second first at 30. Kevin, you know what I think about the Eagles at 10, and I'm going to go ahead and spoiler alert. I have the Eagles as, of course, one of my 5 teams I'm going to do in our NFC needs today. But as a holistic view here, Kevin, what do you think the Eagles should do?
I love it conceptually, the idea of trading down when you just doled out the highest quarterback contract in NFL history. I absolutely love conceptually the idea of, stocking rookie deals. The too good to pass up thing is important to note because we mentioned the lack of true blue chip talent in this draft. And being at 10, you might be able to score one of those guys, which is like, yikes, that's really hard to say no to. But at the same time, I think they can trade back and still get your guy, Brian. I think they can, the steam that we're hearing, the smoke that we're hearing.
How far back? Yeah.
There was a legit headline recently that Bijan was looking like teens, looking like he might go in teens.
Here's the thing, and I'm going to save my Eagles take for when we do the draft needs.
Naturally.
But as far as Bijan, I think nobody knows.
Yeah.
I've seen
he could go top 10, I think. As crazy as that sounds.
Daniel Jeremiah said, don't rule out the Bears.
Yeah,
taking Bijan at 9.
At 9, yeah.
People have linked him to the Falcons at 8. We don't know. Bijan is just such a mystery. He's a guy that 10 years ago would have been in the number 1 overall conversation
100%.
with how running backs were valued.
Before the running back value took the biggest hit in NFL history. The Bears at 9 is ridiculous because Khalil Herbert and Deontay Foreman aren't going to push him for touches. I think he becomes he takes over that backfield almost anywhere he goes. I think there's a handful of places where his workload will get a dent from these other guys, but man, the Bears at 9, that's interesting. Okay, I'm sorry, I'm getting
that's
salivating.
Fine. We will be addressing these NFC needs, so I don't want to go into Bears because Bears are going to come up as well. Adrian, any thoughts on Eagles at 10, prospects trading down, any of that nonsense?
Yeah, I think, look, it's rare for a team to pick at 10 that just played in the Super Bowl. So you got this luxury pick. and we've seen it all around the league. Like when you pay the quarterback just exorbitant amounts of money, you need to be able to rack up some like lower cost contracts with like quality players. So it makes sense conceptually, but the NFL fan in me wants Bijan. Like it just like take him at 10 and just like dominate this run game. That's what I want to see. But
It would be
I mean,
bonkers.
obviously, yeah. But a GM and a head coach, they're not looking to just please fans. They need to build the best team possible. So it makes sense. It makes sense. You can't deny that.
I'm reserving my take for when we do the main topic because obviously, I've got things to say and I've said them previously and I've got more to say today. Without further ado, let's get into it. Let's go ahead and jump into our
main topic.
Nailed it.
So, a lot of positive feedback from the wheel on Monday. We still don't have a name. Anthony said he was going to make it even more exciting today. I will give him time to bring it up. Adrian, I don't know. I know you had a chance to listen. Do you have any name ideas for this wheel? The Wheel of Destiny, the team, carousel, yada,
Those
yada.
were the two
Wow.
names that were floated.
It's funny you say this, right? Because I watched the show and I saw the wheel, and I had some thoughts.
Ooh.
And ever the showman in me, I don't just have thoughts on the
Oh, they got
mind.
logos now.
That's
Look at this.
beautiful. And
Upgrade.
That is
colors.
exciting.
Oh my
So-
word.
I not only do I have names, I also have this fake list that I'm going to pretend to have here. Some ways to introduce the wheel. So
Nice.
3 to 1, and you guys rate it 1 to 5. 5 being the best, 1 being don't ever say that again out loud.
Got it.
Number one, spinning to the wheel. So number 1, can the wheel Slim Shady please stand up?
Ooh.
4.
Oh, we're okay.
I was starting with the low ones. Number 2, someone get Will on Musk on the phone.
1.
Yeah.
Thank
one.
you. That's what I was going for. And then it's time for the wheel deal.
That's
3.
real straightforward. The 3.
Okay.
Yeah.
All right.
The wheel Slim Shady kills it.
I think I might have to lean. I'm also going to agree with Kevin. Will the wheel Slim Shady please
Yeah.
stand up?
That is the wheel
Yeah.
Slim Shady.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Okay, wheel Slim
I was
Shady.
going for
yes.
like a Letterman vibe with his top 10.
No, that
but
was great.
All I've got
You
was
nailed
3.
it.
And that weird fake laugh, like, haha. Anyway.
We should get Anthony, can we get a laugh track on here for next?
Oh,
Sometimes we
laugh
just,
track.
we have a live audience in the chat, but we can't hear them. We need some positive reinforcement for our jokes.
I love the laugh.
so-
I love the boom.
And I'm working on my dad tracks.
dad joke. Yeah.
Nice. All right, so let's go ahead. We have got the Wheel Slim Shady. That
Wheel
is
Slim
now
Shady.
going to be the name going forward. Thank you, Adrian. Anthony, spin it away. Let's see which of us is going to talk about the top. Remember, just one draft need for these NFC teams.
Here we go.
Are we
baby.
going to start with the Eagles? We're
Give
going to
it to
start
me.
with the
Let's get
Eagles.
it.
Give it to me.
Yes.
Come
This
on.
really is. This has to be rigged. I mean,
It's
come on.
destiny. It's the
I
wheel
can't-
of destiny.
This is a surprise to me, but I can't deny that Anthony might have rigged this thing behind the scenes
Just
because
like he
it's
did last
certainly
time.
exactly. Come on, it was left with the Bills and the Dolphins. How is that a coincidence? All right, let's jump right into the Philadelphia Eagles. I love that we were just talking about this, and now it's 100% rigged. Doesn't mean it's not true. All right, so Eagles at pick 10 and 30. They also have a pick in the second round at pick 62. It's a luxury pick. I know we've already talked about this, but I want to emphasize this. As we've gone through the AFC and now the NFC, I'm going through all these. This is the most luxury pick of all the teams, at least that I was analyzing for this exercise. They don't have any glaring needs. Running back is a need. Miles Sanders now in Carolina, but positional value, sure. Defensive line depth. They've got Jordan Davis, who's going into his second year. They retained Fletcher Cox, Brandon Graham. They've still got Hassan Reddick and Josh Sweat on the outside, but always nice to have an extra edge rusher. Safety, they did lose both of their starting safeties, but they brought in Terrell Edmonds from Pittsburgh, and they have a second-year player who flashed last year as well. Linebackers in need. They lost both of their starting linebackers, but do you really draft a linebacker in the top? So, I mean, come on. I know I'm beating around the bush here, but it's a luxury pick. You have 2 first-round picks. You're this close to winning the Super Bowl. Yes, you just signed your quarterback to an amazing contract, but what's that piece that could have gotten them over the hump to help them beat Kansas City in the Super Bowl? It's a guy like Bijan Robinson. So whether you get him at 10 or whether you have to trade back, that's still what I'm going to do here. I will say this. Yeah, it's not a surprise. That's why I was talking about the other needs first. I did see something interesting. Howie Roseman, when they did a visit with Bijan. So Bijan only had 2 or 3 top 30 visits, and one of them was to the Eagles. Howie asked them, why should I draft you at 10? And he said, because you're not getting the top running back, you're getting the top playmaker. Besides the fact that, dude, that's an awesome quote. There was another recent Eagles prospect who said almost the exact same thing. Take a guess who that was. Jalen Hurts. What? Either Bijan knew that, and kudos for him for doing the research.
Homework.
Yeah, whatever. It's still, he said the right thing. So I love that. When a team is this, you could talk about long term. You don't have to sign a guy for 10 years. You don't have to draft a guy for 10 years. Running back, that's not going to happen. Shout out to Worley Isham in the chat.
We appreciate you, Worley.
Keep up the great work. Thanks for stopping into the chat. Let us know what you think about Bijan to the Eagles at 10, or anybody in the chat. But this is a team that doesn't have huge needs. There's not this glaring need that's like, well, you have to take that at 10. And you mentioned, Kevin, there's not a lot of blue chip players. Worley says we're underrated. Well,
I like it.
Yeah, we'll take it. We'll take it.
Let's just push it to the point where we're properly rated.
That's right. Exactly. Tell more friends. Bring other people to our show. So we're.
I love it, Worley. You're the GOAT, man.
I'll be honest. So if we talk about a guy falling, we talked about those 3 guys in the legit headline. If a guy like Skoronski from Northwestern falls to 10, it's not an immediate need. They had Cam Jurgens, Jason Kelsey. I almost said Travis. Jason Kelsey come back another year, but he's going to retire, right? So, I could see that. But short of like a Jalen Carter falling to 10.
And even then, with
not?
the character stuff, I mean, I don't know if you pulled trigger on that. I mean,
I think if you're the Eagles and you're this close and you get a guy like Jalen Carter at 10, you're confident enough in your organization.
You did just
your
lose
leadership.
Javon Hargrave, so I do understand what you're saying.
You get an upgrade on Hargrave. How easy is that in this draft from a prospect standpoint? I mean, he still needs to. From a prospect standpoint, he's an upgrade. Hargrave is proven, yes. But that's a no-brainer pick. But Jalen Carter's not going to fall to 10. I don't think Skoronski will fall till 10. So Bijan will be there. None of these blue chips. So either you trade back, but why not? You still have another first rounder.
I love it. I'm not
mad.
I've been saying that all along. It's the kind of thing where it's like, yes, it's a luxury pick. Yes, it might be quote unquote bad asset allocation, irresponsible, whatever you want to call it.
No. But even at this is a rare situation, Kevin. In general, it might be bad asset allocation, but you are this close to a Super Bowl victory. You don't really need anything else. It's a luxury. Bijan is the ultimate luxury pick because you get a generational running back talent, a weapon talent. This guy's an amazing pass catcher. You can line him up out wide. He's a mismatch all across the board. How do you defend Jalen Hurts? That amazing offensive line. Can you imagine big giant holes and a guy like Bijan going through there? Miles Sanders had 1,000 yards behind this. What could Bijan get? 2,000? It's just like, why not?
It's just like the Rams. I mean, it's at a certain point in time, get your chip and move on. Ask questions later. Ask for what's the saying? Ask for forgiveness, not permission. Philly should do that. They should just dive in head first into this fantastic opportunity to have, like you said, the best playmaker in the draft, hands down. I love the call, Brian. I've loved it from the jump. I'm a risk taker myself. I'm a riverboat guy myself, so I ain't mad at it at all.
And you can just see the headlines of how this is the kind of thing we'll hotly debate. But if he gets that generational talent that we all expect Bijan's going to be, he's going to be praised as the hero that he always, Howie Roseman knows how to draft. So if he gets him and he dominates, no one's going to second guess it. Flip side though, if he doesn't and he busts,
right, which he won't.
I still think,
But here's the thing: the Eagles got to the Super Bowl without him. A bust is not going to break their team.
Well, I mean,
that's the definition of a luxury pick. He can get it wrong, and it won't affect his legacy or the quality of this Eagles team.
And a great example of the first round running back being a complete fallacy is Sony Michel came in and won the Patriots a Super Bowl and then fell off the cliff. Basically,
let's not let them.
He was
Sony Michel was not the
Ryan,
reason that they won the Super Bowl
in those playoffs. He was very much a huge part of it.
He did have a good playoff run, but let's not get a little crazy there.
Well, I think maybe a little crazy, but he was a dog.
I think Todd Gurley, going back a little bit farther, maybe a better because he was a first round. I think he was drafted at 10 by the Rams.
Yeah, but they didn't win one though. But they
got to the Super Bowl.
He was he was RB1 for how many years, and then he just fell off an
Also,
absolute cliff.
Just want to shout out
Team
Whirly.
running
First
back.
of all,
Whirly.
I don't know why you have 6 accounts, but thank
appreciate
you
it.
for subbing on all of them, man.
You're the goat, Whirly.
You're a goat, man.
Yeah,
Appreciate
we really
you.
appreciate you, man, for real. All right, yo. So what do we think? Are we ready to head back to the wheel?
We got 15 more teams. Let's go ahead and bring up the Wheel Slim
to say.
Shady. I love
That's
that name, Adrian. It's
dope.
easy. It is a little, but it's worth practicing to get it right because it's such
The
a great
Wheel
name.
Slim Shady, not
Wheel Slim
Shim
Shady.
Slady. Okay.
Next time we need like a title underneath Wheel Slim Shady. We need to
It's
like
rigged.
market this.
It's rigged.
Oh,
This
the
has to be
Lions. 100% rigged. But you know what? It's okay if it's
We
good
ain't mad.
content. Who cares if it's rigged?
We ain't mad.
Our
Come on.
producer, Anthony Weiner, noted Detroit Lions fan. Because there are 16 teams and 3 of us, we each got 5. That left 1. And of course, the Lions was going to go to Anthony. So, Anthony, come on in and tell us the number 1 draft need for your Detroit Lions.
All right, so first, the fact
Put the
that
banner up. You still got to produce. Put the banner up. Let's get a Lions
The-
banner going.
the fact that you guys assume that I can rig the wheel just blows
I know,
my
right?
mind. If I could
Giving-
do that, if I had
Anthony's like,
believe
you're
in
giving
you.
you're giving me way too much credit.
are
I don't know
giving
what
you a
I'm
lot of
doing
credit.
here.
You're a mad genius, bro. What do you mean?
Yeah, you can do it all.
Let's go,
No, I would.
Oscar.
You're flattering me.
Shout out, hey,
Um,
shout out to Oscar real quick. Sorry, I got to interrupt you, Anthony. Oscar is the first to comment on your videos, Kevin, on Instagram every single day. I told him I'd give him a shout out.
Thank you. Oh,
Giving
dude,
you a
and
shout
thanks
out.
for swinging through the pod, man. Thank you, dude.
Didn't know he was an Eagles fan, Oscar. Welcome to the legit NFL
and
pod,
Oscar,
man.
you're seeing a whole nother side of us, man. We're real unbuttoned over here compared to the video.
All right, Anthony, now you may go. Let's hear about your precious Detroit Lions.
All right, so I heard some bad news this
Oh,
morning. Just
awful.
Want to bring it up real quick. Jameson Williams is suspended for 6 games for gambling on college football.
Yeah, we need to give proper context, right? I'm glad you said.
Yeah, of course.
Jameson specifically didn't bet on NFL games, but he bet at an NFL facility, which is also
that's,
against the
This
rules.
is just that is. I'm sorry. I know they're the rules, but man, I think it's so stupid.
Yeah.
But here's the thing: so is
Yeah,
like outlining marijuana, but it's still the rules. But
Yeah, I
regardless
get
of
what
if
you're
the
saying.
rules stupid, I agree.
Right.
But you should know the rules
Right.
and
Try to follow
it's not
them.
that try to follow them, right? Because this kind of thing can happen.
if you got to place a
Yeah.
bet, you got to can't lose parlay. Take 10 steps away from the facility. Throw it
Yeah.
down.
I feel like it's one of those like situations where he wasn't aware of that specific rule, and he's young, rising star.
And in
mixed,
fairness,
mixed up in it all.
there was staff members that were involved in this that got let go by the Lions. There were multiple players. This was obviously a group of guys making bets at the Lions facility.
I honestly didn't know
That's
that
bad.
nuance of the rule. Even after the whole Calvin
Same.
Ridley situation, I didn't know that you couldn't bet on something else in the facility.
It's insane.
I
you
liked it
should know
better
more
when
than
we were
me.
losing.
Okay.
Yeah, right.
We're like
Yeah.
on the top of the media now, and all this is coming up.
That's a
so.
tough. That's a tough.
True.
show right there.
Welcome to the spotlight. All right.
Yeah.
Speaking of spotlight, Anthony, let's hear about your top draft need for the Lions.
Yeah, so the Lions looked really good at the second half of the season, going 1-6 to 9-8, and they finished with the 4th offense. But they finished with one of the worst defenses, number 29. So they're going to have to make moves on the defensive side of the ball in 2023, and they have a number 6 overall pick, a number 18, a 48, 55, 81, 152, 159,
Wow.
183, and
That's a
194.
cupboard right there.
This is an opportunity to stack the roster with young talent, and I think most of it should go to the defense. And then in free agency, they acquired Cam
Anthony,
Sutton,
how
Gardner
like excited, how
Mosley.
giddy are you right now to talk about the Lions
I'm so
stacking
excited.
talent?
That cupboard is nuts,
I'm like,
bro.
I'm shaking. My hands are shaking. I'm so excited.
That's why the Stafford trade was so good because they
was.
they stocked the cupboard.
Yeah.
and that's the thing is the Rams. They got their Super Bowl. They got
Yeah.
their win, and now
Everybody
we're getting
got what
our
they
win.
wanted out
It's
of
a
that.
win-win situation in that. and
This
it's
is the
beautiful.
the chickens coming home to roost from all these trades that we talk about where we say it might sting now, it might hurt now, but send them away and then you'll reap the benefits for years to come. We need to see more teams do that, really. When it's not your time to win
absolutely.
the Super Bowl, stock the cupboard.
And Brad Holmes is a genius for all of this, for doing all of this right now.
Yeah.
And so they did acquire Cam Sutton, Gardner Johnson, and Mosley in the backfield. And they also brought back Isaiah Buggs at defensive tackle and defensive end John Kaminsky. The reason I think those are good re-signings is because their development was strong. And they found rhythm in Aaron Glenn's defense, who decided to stay even with multiple head coach offers. So I think that there's a lot of development happening in that defense. So improving on that with somebody from the draft in like the defensive back position, I think is very important. There's Gonzalez and Witherspoon who are likely to be picked in top 10. And I think Detroit could pick those corners up to develop under the already existing veterans. And then because the secondary was one of the worst. And I think that it was a precursor when they traded Jeff Okudah. That was kind of foreshadowing a move in the draft. Because
we put Gonzalez with him in the mock, right, Kevin?
Yep.
We did.
Yeah.
We did. Yeah.
Yep.
So at pick 6, I think they need to consider their worst position, though, and that's defensive tackle. Detroit was last place in yards allowed per game with 392, 146 rush yards, and 245 pass yards, and allowing a 94.2 quarterback rating. So signing a guy like Jalen Carter could be crucial to improving the defensive line alongside Bugs, Hutchinson,
if he
and
falls
Kaminsky.
past Seattle. What if
Right.
That's what I was worried about.
So.
And so another name that I want to bring up is Brian Breesy or Kalijah Cansey, who are both promising defensive tackles. So
I think you can get them at 18, though.
I think exactly. So I think you can wait. So I think
so you could go BPA at 6. Yeah, you could grab like a Gonzalez or a Witherspoon at 6.
If I were the GM,
or
if my name was Brad Holmes and I was in that position, that's what I would do. I would draft.
Well, when you be the GM, your name is Anthony Weiner. We knocked Brad Holmes to the side.
Yeah, that's right.
Right, of
course.
You, baby. And
so Brad who?
I would do that instead of getting Jalen Carter just because of his character issues. I do want to bring that up because that is relevant. I would rather pick a guy like Breesy or Cansey and pick a corner.
Especially at 18, yeah, exactly. You can afford to hang back.
Luxury picks.
There is an opportunity in the first round for Detroit to cover bases on 2 of their top draft needs, and I just think everything is coming together so beautifully, and I'm just getting excited thinking about it and talking about it.
As you should.
So if they make these moves, I think that next year could be a lot different. They could finish top 15 in defense and still consider or keep airing it out on offense without having to chase points all the time. And I think we might see some playoffs.
Can I say on Jalen Carter real quickly? I've banged this drum on this show before, and I got shot down, but I'm going to say it again. I don't think that the off-field issues with Jalen Carter are as big a deal as people make it. I understand that he got caught doing what he did. But if you think that these 20-something young guys living on top of the world are not driving their cars fast or look, what did we do when we were 22? He just happened to be the one where things went wrong. So I don't think that's look, I get why people would see it as a red flag. I do understand that part, but to me, that wouldn't stop me drafting a blue chip talent because of that. Because if I look to myself when I was 21 and I wasn't, on TV and on the news for being a top draft talent, I made stupider decisions than that. Let me just say.
Well, my concern isn't that, even though it's a terrible situation. So 2 people died.
Yeah, respect.
It was the pro day. It was him showing up out of shape, literally not finishing his drills, 9 pounds heavier than he was at the combine, which was only like less than a month prior. That actually is a bigger red flag long term. Then you're right, Adrian. These kids are young; they make mistakes. Yeah. He's racing, Many of us,
the thing is, that he went through this whole racing thing, and like that's got to play. Like that was everywhere on the news. It's got to play on someone at that age. Like, I mean, again, I'm not, because the thing is, he's going to be in the spotlight. So you've got to look at that in context of like, okay, well, he can't act like a regular 21-year-old, but I just think it's not a bigger deal. I think if he comes in, he's going to dominate, and I really hope he does. I hope he gets his shot.
I respect the philosophy. I think the human element of this show and the human element of football in general is that we should try to be empathetic. We should try to be understanding of people's circumstances, right? So that's shout out to you, Adrian, for bringing that perspective. Yeah. And Brian, at the same time, other side of that coin, absolutely, you should not be showing up to your pro day, way overweight and not being able to finish workouts. It's a very tricky, line to toe. But we're talking about a top 10 draft pick.
Oh yeah, so, and he will, and he might even go top 5. You get a good organization that comes in and like, oh, we'll straighten him out.
But I think it's okay to be scrutinous though when you're talking about paying them that kind of money. Unfortunately, the NFL is a business at the end of the day, so we do have to think about the commodities. We do have to think about their willingness to be worthy investments, and that nobody can decide that but them. So that's important to consider.
Anthony, I have one question before we move back to the wheel Slim Shady. See, I'm getting more comfortable saying it.
The wheel Slim Shady. I'm going to say it 10 times.
What if Bijan is there at 18?
If he falls to 18, I say pick him up and worry about
Yes.
the
Thank you. I'm glad you said
later.
that.
I do. I think that would be aside David Montgomery and DeAndre Swift, who has been limited lately. I think that he would be a really good addition to that run game because the pass game settled down. It's good. The offensive line is amazing. So adding a running back like Bijan Robinson would be incredible for Detroit for that run
Can
game.
I tell you guys a secret? If Bijan's there at 18, they should see what team will overpay the most for the 18th pick to come up for Bijan. That's what they should do.
Who's going to overpay for a running back? Even a guy like that, though. I don't know.
It's
if
gonna
you're the Lions and you have not had playoff success ever, and you were on the verge of it last year, and you're kind of the division favorite all of a sudden, just like the Eagles, the Lions all of a sudden have one of the better rosters in the NFL. Adding a guy like Bijan is just icing on the cake. That's what I think. You can't be a rebuilding team and adding a guy like Bijan. You have to be a team that Bijan is the piece that's going to take you to the promised land. And the Lions actually fit into that category.
It would not shock me at all if a team jumped up for Bijan. It would not shock me at all. I'm just gonna say that, and I'll leave it at that because he's that.
I agree, but what kind of haul? I'm not saying the team wouldn't trade up, but if it's at 18, Cowboys
that's a haul.
6, I could see.
You could add a second for that.
Yeah.
And we'll see. There's a lot that's got to unfold where, all draft coverage, we're grabbing at straws right now. I am ready to dive into the wheel.
In 6 days, we will actually know what happens. Just a little bit more speculation. All right, Anthony, appreciate you popping in, talking about your Detroit Lions.
Great points, Anthony.
Let's go ahead and bring back up the wheel Slim Shady.
Let's go.
So we can go to our next NFC team and find out what their biggest draft need is. We got a technical difficulty. Anthony popped out for a second, so he's got to bring the wheel back up.
And we back.
As it loads.
It's the maestro. He doesn't take time. He's right on it.
Right? And
there we go. Let it spin. I think it's lagging, so I'm like, it's going to stop on them.
We got
it's going to stop on them. Is that officially the Giants? There we go.
I think it's officially the Giants. Now, my friends, that's me. And I'm very happy to talk about the Giants because they're basically the New Jersey Bills. We have Brian Dable. We have Joe Shane. We have, basically every single Buffalo Bills cut or reject is now
Josh Allen Jr., Daniel Jones.
That's funny. That's comedy right there. Let me tell you. So this one's not too difficult for me because obviously the Giants are ascendant. Fantastic job for them to, in what many consider to be a rebuilding, tear it down year, have made the playoffs. I'm really hoping Saquon signs that tag, and I'm hoping they can, extend him long term. But it's been tough.
The communication coming out recently has not been promising for that.
No, it's bad. There's a lot of negative energy coming from that situation. I'm gonna go out on a limb here. I think there's two big needs. But I think the biggest need is wide receiver. Because you guys know I love Isaiah Hodgins. I famously I dubbed them the
it could be famous.
They're a ragtag bunch of misfit toys. They really are. Yeah. Isaiah Hodgins, Richie James, who's gone by the way now, Darius Slayton, Sterling Shepard, basically is that the Giants receiver room or is that the injury report? I can't tell because they're the same. So throw in a stud wide receiver to the Giants, and I think you have an even better offense than they had last year because they already added Darren Waller. I think he's going to help Daniel Jones a lot, be a safety valve. We mentioned Saquon. I think another place where they can improve is offensive line. They did just draft Evan Neal last year, but I think he wasn't as great as people thought he was going to be in his first season.
Didn't have a great rookie season.
We'll see what happens. He might still turn a corner. He was a top 5 pick. So, fingers crossed that he rights the ship. They could always get better on the interior. I think are they starting John Feliciano? That's not great. He used to be a Buffalo Bill. Not ideal. Right. So offensive line is in the conversation. Defensive back is in the conversation. Their D-line and their pass rush has been pretty decent. The Kayvon Thibodeau pick, Azeez Ojulari picks, they've been solid. They've been doing a decent job creating pressure, but I think they need a lot of things because I think a lot of the reason why they made it to the playoffs last year was coaching, but I think wide receiver is what they need the most.
It's hard when we said a lot that it's a rebuild year and they did quite well, but that almost works against you because in a
Right.
rebuild year, you want the height, you want the draft capital,
Correct.
right? So, but I hear you. I think a wide receiver would be great. Get a nice playmaker, get Darren Waller in there. Hopefully, everything changes if Saquon Barkley holds out.
Yeah, I
That
think
changes everything.
I think given the nature of rebuilding, if a coach, I think you mentioned the double-edged sword thing. I think if a coach can win in a rebuilding year, it does wonders to establishing the culture. I think
Totally.
you can look at McDermott's first year in Buffalo. You can look at, I want to say it was Peterson's first year in Jacksonville. He made it to the playoffs. It was
that was last year.
Dable's first year. Those are huge. Those are huge, like building blocks. But
McDaniel first year in Miami. Hey,
I was going to say that too. Yeah, it does slow the development of how much you can add to the roster because you don't have the same assets. But that's a price you're willing to pay.
Yeah.
All right, Anthony, let's go back to the Wheel Slim Shady. I created a banner here. Bam.
Bam.
Nailed it.
Love that. Good job, Adrian.
I really didn't expect that
Very
one to hit.
innovative.
He's
He
like, I'm
said
just.
he was-
that was
He
a
was
filler.
leading with his soft stuff, and then that ended up being the winner. Cardinals, Adrian.
Oh, the good old Arizona Cardinals. I'm sure we're all thrilled to talk about them.
Oh, excited.
We can make this one quick if we want, because I agree. They are the dumpster fire of 2023. We can all agree. So, look, the Cardinals are burning it to the ground right now. The only thing they've got, and they don't really have, is a QB. They kind of don't have him. They got an elite wide receiver. Oh wait, he's getting traded. They've got a great safety. Oh wait, he wants out the door. Like they're just a mess. So I actually think that their biggest draft need is draft capital. I think they need to get out of that spot and get as much as they can.
That's
fire. And people, a lot of mocks and a lot of talks is around the edge, and you lost JJ Watt, you lost Zach Allen, and I agree with those with that in principle, but I just think you need more picks. I think this year is
so many holes across the roster,
all over the place, and more to come. Like the pieces that they do have are on the way out. By all accounts, I mean, I don't know if they'll trade Buda Baker, but I think Hopkins is as good as gone. So I just think, to me, you're in a spot, and particularly if the Texans don't take a QB, that pick is going to be the hottest. Like their phone is just going to ring off the hook for someone trying to get in and get CJ Stroud. So get as much draft capital as you can, and then start to rebuild and forget this year. Like, sorry, Cardinals fans, it's going to be a rough year. This is when the real ones will be made.
Facts.
Yeah, these are the years. Like, and
you live in Arizona. It's nice weather-wise there. Enjoy it.
Enjoy that.
Totally. Yeah, and that's Rich coming
Watch
from a
Kurt
Packers
Warner
fan.
highlights.
Yeah, they're like Rich coming from a Packers fan. We've had Hall of Fame quarterbacks for 30 years, but we had that year with Brett Hundley, and I still watched every game.
That year,
it's going to be
Brett Hundley. Do you want me to list the Dolphins starting quarterbacks since Dan Marino between him and Tua, because it would not be a fun exercise.
Bills, same.
I barely can.
Yeah, you can. Adrian, you can't.
The interesting thing about the Cardinals is not so much like what are their needs. It's like, where do they not have a need? Right?
Totally.
That's what you end up asking. Tight end, maybe? Like Trey McBride showed some signs. Zach Ertz coming back off injury, but they need offensive line. Their running back, James Conner, is getting closer to 30, and he's has always his injury issues. Wide receiver, you mentioned Hopkins out the door. Defensive secondary, defensive line, J.J. Watt retires. Linebacker, Isaiah Simmons, Savin Collins.
Okay,
maybe you can. Yeah, that's it. Everything else is a need. So
is
I
there
love
anywhere
that.
where you're like, is there anywhere where you're like, they don't need it besides QB? Because I get they've got Kyler coming back and financially it's hard, but there's nowhere where they're like, they don't need anyone there.
There's so many.
Even Kyler. I mean, does he like Call of Duty more than it? It's like, I know you don't. Right now, 100%. You can't do anything about quarterback. You paid him, and he's injured, so it's like you gotta roll with him. But oh god, that roster that's gonna be a painful year for Cardinals fans.
I'm thinking that you mentioned, Adrian, that they're at 3, right? And so you trade out of 3. If you can stay in the top 10, so you're missing out on Will Anderson, right? But there's like 5 or 6 pretty solid edge rushers in this draft.
It's actually a decently deep edge class.
You could trade out of
maybe
3,
not superstars, but yeah.
Right. You'd miss out on Anderson, but there's Nolan Smith, there's Lucas Van Ness. There's so many guys that you could get a little later.
Miles Murphy.
I don't hate that for them. That's not a bad idea.
If you want the dream scenario, if the Texans don't take a QB, I would be trading to the Colts because I feel like they would offer to stop someone getting ahead of them
Right.
to get them in. That's what I think would be.
Yeah.
Their,
And then trade back again from 4. Just
Really?
There's
Yeah,
going to
like-
be so much of that. I can't. This
Stockpile.
draft, it can't come soon enough.
All right, let's keep it rolling. Keep the wheel rolling. See what I did there? All right, the wheel Slim Shady, Anthony. Let's bring up our next NFC team.
Here we go. Oh, there we
Oh,
go.
yeah.
No
Dirty
surprise what
Birds.
this is gonna be.
Give it to us, Big Mac.
So no surprise if you have followed the show in any capacity that I am the one that's talking about the Atlanta Falcons. They are my off-season darling team, my second team behind my Dolphins, just based on how they've done this offseason. All right, so they got pick 8 and 44. They signed Bud Dupree and Calais Campbell, but edge is still a big need for them. That's one of the biggest pieces there. Defensive line interior, a need as well, but not as pronounced. At pick 8, if Tyree Wilson falls, that's a no-brainer. If Jalen Carter falls, even though it's not edge, that's a no-brainer. I'm not sure he does. You mentioned Nolan Smith, Miles Murphy. These are the kind of guys I'm targeting there. There's been talk about quarterback. There's been talk about even Bijan at 8. But this is a team that was on the verge of winning a pretty wide-open conference, or wide-open division. Oscar, couldn't agree more. Huge fan.
We talk about it often. Yeah.
If we do like off-season rankings, the Falcons are going to be right up there with me, with Kevin's Texans, as we.
I love my Texans.
Duel
They're the other team. Yeah.
So I'm not saying I'm sold on Desmond Ridder by any means, but at 8, who's going to be there at 8? That's the guy I want to use this one first-round pick when you've already added a bunch of pieces to the defense, right? You got Jesse Spates in at safety. We just mentioned these moves along the defensive interior. You had Caden Ellis at linebacker. You have Drake London going into year 2. Kyle Pitts coming back from injury. Tyler Algier going into year 2. You have one of the best offensive line, surprisingly. You brought back Caleb McGarry at right tackle. You signed Lindstrom to a long-term deal. So even if Ridder isn't the guy at pick 8, I just can't say that quarterback is their biggest draft need. If they're earlier, they could get like a Bryce Young. Sure, I'd put that as their biggest draft need. So to me, it's edge. Like, keep stocking up. You have AJ Terrell at defensive back. Cornerback could be a need. So depending on the prospects that are there, if Witherspoon or Gonzalez falls to 8 and Tyree Wilson is off the board, then hey, I could see pair him up next to AJ Terrell with Jesse Bates in the deep secondary, and then now you're cooking with gas. So I would say edge first, interior defensive line if Jalen Carter falls, and cornerback depending on the prospects that are available.
What if Will Levis or Richardson was available at 8?
Richardson slamming it.
Yep.
I wanted, and I mentioned
Brings up
multiple
podium.
times that I wanted the Falcons to pursue Lamar, because that Arthur Smith offense is very much run first, that they were using Mariota. Imagine Mariota, but with Lamar or Anthony Richardson. Like, there's probably not a better offense in the NFL that's better suited for Anthony Richardson actually starting from day one. You don't need to have an advanced playbook knowledge. You don't need him to be some proficient passer right off the bat. You need to have that threat of his running the ball that actually opens up passing lanes. It allows for a quarterback to develop longer because he's got more wide open receivers. He's got a freak tight end, Kyle Pitts. He's got an amazing first round draft pick in Drake London. And you have to worry about whether it's him or Tyler Algier taking these RPOs and these read options. Yeah, if Anthony Richardson's there at 8, 100%. I'm
You can make Mariota look good.
Atlanta.
If you make Mariota look like a competent runner, which I'm not saying he's not, but he looked great in Falcons.
Yeah,
so.
he did.
Thank you, Oscar. Oscar agrees. If Richardson's there at 8, which I don't think he will be slamming it. Will Levis, I'm not as sold. I'm still going with edge or cornerback, or if Carter is there, I'm going with him over Levis. Richardson, though, man, I can't pass that up if I'm the Falcons.
Now, Brian, now let's take the pre, like, that's off the table. The draft is over. Okay, and the Falcons drafted Bijan Robinson. Are you sick to your stomach over your Tyler Algier love, or are you happy that Bijan's going to be in an offense that he can eat?
That Falcons offense will be sick with Bijan.
Yeah.
Don't get me wrong.
Yeah.
The Tyler Algier love is because I've got a lot of shares of Dynasty. of Tyler Algier, but if my NFL hat on, my Falcons,
You're not mad at it.
admiration, I think it would be fantastic.
Okay, sweet.
Great
Just
landing spot for
J-dubs.
Bijan himself. That was one of, if not the best run blocking offensive lines in the NFL last year. They were certainly top 5.
That'd be
it's a
lethal.
team that wants to run the ball. It's a team that could be competing for the NFC South. Yes, it's a great landing spot for him. It's a great move for the Falcons. It's just they have other needs. It's not a luxury pick like it is the Eagles, because they have a 1,000-yard rookie rusher who was one of the most efficient running backs in the second half of the season. You're not positional value. You're not getting, that's not the missing piece.
Right. Yeah, absolutely.
Wouldn't be mad at it, but it's not the missing piece for Atlanta.
Yeah.
Okay, let's bring back the wheel. That's how I did mess it up. It happens. It is a little bit of a tongue twister. The wheel Slim Shady. Let's spin it, Anthony.
It.
I'm trying to keep the branding. I'm going to pull that banner up every time. So we're going to make this a thing. The wheel Slim Shady. It's very unique.
Until copyright comes in.
Until
the
Death Row Records or whatever he's on, and Dr. Dre comes after us.
Right. Hey,
49ers, all right, here we go. Of course, I live 20 minutes from Levi's Stadium, regular on the 49ers Rush podcast. Makes perfect sense that I will be doing the San Francisco 49ers. No pick until pick 99. That's towards the end of the third round. This is due to trading for Trey Lance as well as trading for Christian McCaffrey, which is why they have such a late pick. The good news is they have a pretty darn good roster. They don't have a ton of huge needs. It's not as clean like the Eagles, where they really don't have any glaring needs. There are a few needs they need to address. Mainly offensive line, especially offensive tackle. They did lose starting right tackle Mike McGlinchey, who is now with the Denver Broncos. And they still have needs across the interior, really everywhere on the offensive line other than Trent Williams at left tackle. But who do you pick at 99? So I had to dive into some of the deep prospects, get some of these. Is there an offensive tackle worth taking there? And I found one that I really liked. Blake Freeland, offensive tackle out of BYU, 6'8", 302 pounds. He was 4th in the nation, guys, in PFF grade for offensive tackles. 4th among all qualifying offensive tackles, with a 90.9 grade last year, including an 87.9 run blocking grade. We know how Shanahan loves to live off of the run first. One of the questions there is around play strength. It showed up a little bit in the Senior Bowl, but the fact that you're getting him at pick 99 and you can get a guy who has these kind of measurables and this kind of production that could possibly start on day 1, week 1, I'm going offensive line, most likely offensive tackle, and Blake Freeland seems like a good candidate there.
I like that.
Love it.
We can keep it rolling.
Yeah, we can
feel
keep
free
it
to comment,
rolling.
or we can.
I
We
think
still
I was
got a
just-
bunch more teams.
I was just going to say, even for any holes they have, I feel like Shanahan can make up for it. So I love that you get a run block.
Yeah.
Defensive tackle.
Right.
Spin it. Sorry, Anth.
No, they're stacked. Yeah, the 49ers have a lot of holes already filled. So I'm not. Yeah.
I must say it. I must say it every time. The wheel Slim Shady. Okay. Oh,
There we go,
Adrian's Green Bay Packers.
Let's do
Tee
it.
him up.
All right. So look, the Packers, they're an odd one. I think it's definitely the case where their biggest need is going to be in playmaker. They've got a very young wide receiver core. They lost Rob Tunyon, who wasn't overly productive last year anyway, and injury prone. So their next is Mercedes Lewis, who is just like, punching his senior card. Like it's time to get someone. So I think for where they're picking, to me, a tight end, unless in a dream scenario, which I don't see Smith and Jigba's available, I think they need a tight end. So to me, the kind of order would be Smith and Jigba. I love Dalton Kincaid, would be my first tight end, or Zay Flowers if he was there. But they need something there. They need something to, you're handing the keys over to a new quarterback. You need to make him look confident. And I kind of don't buy into the hype that they do it to burn Aaron Rodgers, since they never spent a first round on a playmaker for him.
So funny.
Yeah, it's a fun narrative, but Goody's a good he's good at drafting, a good GM, so he's not going to make that kind of decision just out of, I guess, emotional. Yeah, thanks, Oscar. I hear you, man. Wide receiver or tight end,
Pass catcher,
and I prefer
sure.
tight end. Give himself a safety valve. He needs someone big in the middle to just dump it off to if he can. And
Do you
someone
have a
that can block
preferred
as well.
tight end prospect there at 15?
Dalton Kincaid would be
Yeah,
my
Kincaid.
There you go,
Nice.
yeah.
He's more of a weapon. Mayer is
Yeah.
a little bit more well-rounded, but Kincaid can be like a seam stretcher, like a
And
vertical.
Darnell Washington is just like flying
I-
up draft boards.
I love Darnell. Have you watched his
I'm a
tape?
big
He's
watcher.
just
I
like
like
a
watching him.
truck, dude. It's so.
He
And
was
to be honest, look,
he had 7 top 30 visits. I think we reported that today on Legit Football. That's crazy. It's a
I mean,
lot.
they lost Alan Lazard, who was a bit of a pass blocker. He
Yep.
was a wide receiver, but he
Stud.
blocked. So Darnell Washington makes sense. You know, we reported in the Legit Football thing today that some people seem good enough to be a tackle. That's how pass blocking. That's how good he is.
That's how good a run
crazy.
blocking is. Yep.
Yeah.
That's
so
crazy.
yeah.
I love
think
that.
tight end or wide receiver. Yeah.
Yeah.
Fun fact before we move on: Mercedes Lewis, 38 years old, and was drafted in the 2006 NFL draft,
Insane.
Insane.
and he's still
isn't it?
playing. Kudos
Insane.
to this guy.
Dude, I'm
Oscar.
going to be completely honest. I always put Mercedes Lewis on all my Madden teams because he's nobody ever drafts him, and he's always there in like the 50th round. He's still like an 80 overall somehow.
Me and Oscar are on the same page here. I'm feeling you, man.
And there you go. I
All right,
love it.
Anthony, let's keep on
Nailed it.
grooving and bring back the wheel Slim Shady.
The wheel Slim Shady,
Wait,
please stand up.
Let's try. Yeah, thank you. With
Really
the
good. That
was
wheel
the
Slim
transition.
Shady, please stand up. He was waiting for the. All right, getting a little crazy there, Anthony. Let's go.
There we go. Oh, let's go. The wheel's getting smaller, boys.
Yeah, I was just counting. What are we up to?
We're
9
getting
left?
through this.
5, 6, 7, 8, 9. Looks like 9 teams left.
About to be halfway.
Hit the button, Anthony. Spin it. Spin it. Is there a lag?
It could be that we've
There
already
we
learned
go.
The
that.
lag is the lag is definitely tough on the wheel. It's all the colors. It's all the logos, man.
So much design. Can't
Boom, Adrian,
Let's do
Oh,
it
Tampa Bay
again.
Buccaneers.
you're back.
All right, so
Not
I am
quarterback
back.
for sure.
No, I agree. All right, so look, a lot of people are saying quarterback. You guys know that I'm drinking the Kool-Aid on Baker Mayfield. In fact, I'm bathing in the Kool-Aid. I've put it in a bath, and I'm just sitting there on Saturday night. I love him, so I really hope he does well. We know that Bruce Arians, who's a shame he's not the head coach, was high on bringing Baker over when he got traded, and it's a shame he's not there to be his head coach because I'm not completely sold on Todd Bowles. So I think, look, they're not going to get an elite QB talent at 19, and unless you might maybe get a Hendon Hooker, but I wouldn't call him elite by any means. So I think you need an offensive tackle. I think you need to give Baker a chance. Or look, if it's Kyle Trask, I think you need to give them a chance to be able to do something and at least assess what you have. I had a bit of a look down at a few mocks and a few prospects. So I put Broderick Jones over to the Bucks to keep their quarterback standing a little
Nice. Pair him with Tristan Wirfs. Love that.
bit. Yeah.
Who do
I
we
know
have
quarterback.
in the Bucks in that
Let's
mock?
Take a look. See here. I have it on deck.
Do, do.
When I said on
We need
deck,
wait
I
music.
meant-
Can we? All right. Yeah, so we need a laugh track and we need some hold music. Anthony, please
Oh,
take
give
that.
me some Jeopardy theme all day. Here
Jeopardy
we go.
theme would be perfect, although it's probably copyrighted.
Copyrighted, 100%.
Yeah.
Tampa Bay, we had take Miles Murphy at 19.
We gave him edge.
I like that. I'm cool with that. Edge or the trenches on.
They
either
need
side of the
tackle
ball.
too. They need tackle too. Yeah,
Definitely.
Donovan Smith not coming back, and he wasn't good last year. Anyway.
Right. Yeah.
All right, back to
I
the
just want
wheels.
whatever gives. That's why I spin it. But while it's spinning, I just want whatever gives Baker Mayfield a chance. I just want him to. do
Yeah.
it.
I can
Fair
respect that.
enough.
My darling.
They haven't shipped any of his receiver talent yet.
Mm.
That's still a pretty competent. That's still a pretty competent slate of weapons, I would say. Mike Evans, Chris Godwin, Cam Brate. I like Rashad White more than consensus. Here we go. This
Minnesota
team-
Vikings.
This team, for me, it's a glaring need, and I think it's only going to get worse when more cap casualty things start to trickle out. But I think defensive backfield is far and away their biggest need, and I think they proved that in the offseason last year. Sneaky need at wide receiver, given that they just lost Thielen, so they have Jefferson and Osborne right now. Sneaky need at wide receiver, but I'm going myself with corner, and I'm looking at that. If they miss out on the Witherspoons and the Gonzalez's of the world because they're not quite high enough, I'm looking at the Deontay Banks, the Emmanuel Forbes, those middle round tight end corners that I think will be really, really helpful because their defensive backfield, they had Duke Shelley and Patrick Peterson last year. They're both gone. So, and they were not great anyway. So we're staring down the barrel of just a really underwhelming cornerback room. Give us an Emmanuel Forbes or a Deontay Banks reset your defensive backfield. Harrison Smith still a Viking? Yes.
Yes, he took a pay
Not a
cut. He
pressing,
came
not
back.
a. There you go. So that's
Yeah.
not as pressing of a need at safety, but that's right around the corner eventually. So that I think that's a open and shut case. Do you guys have any other needs for Minnesota?
No,
I mean,
think
I think it would be fun to put Hendon Hooker. That's why I put him in my mock, but it's not the biggest.
I would
need.
too. I would love a QB. Well,
It is.
and
Brian
they're looking-
Flores taking over and the secondary. He's used to those. He loves to play
dogs.
press man like New England does. So I actually like Deontay Banks is a little more physical of a corner. I think that would be a good fit for them. So definitely can't argue
QB
with
also
that.
a sneaky need though. I would not
Yeah.
hate if the Trey Lance trade happens. Man, I'm a happy camper. I'm a happy camper.
but that's the sneaky need of wide receiver is kind of looking to next year. You know, if you lose, well, not lose, if you get rid of Cousins, or you get a QB in this draft, whatever, you're going to need some weapons for him next year. So.
Yeah, KJ Osborne's fine wide receiver.
Yeah.
And you can get this may not be a very top heavy wide receiver class, but there's decent depth. So you can
7
get
to 10 guys that people are floating around the
a
top.
slot. There's so
50.
many slot guys. You can get a slot
Yeah.
guy in the second or third round.
You only need
It's-
two. You don't need
It's
a
just
one.
not right. Exactly.
Right.
You don't need the top draft need. I like defensive back as a better.
I would
top draft
definitely go
need there.
complementary skill set with Jefferson too. If you were to get a receiver, you don't need to get somebody who wins in the same way as him. I think you could go smaller.
Well,
frame. I
Jefferson
think
wins every way though.
That's
let's be
true. He's
honest.
just one of
a
those.
stud.
He's one of
All
those
right,
freaks.
back to the wheel, Slim Shady.
The
Anthony actually
wheel Slim Shady.
messaged in the private chat that the wheel is destroying his personal connection. Well, this is the sacrifice that we make, Anthony. So it's
Andy,
all for the fans.
Anthony, I'm so sorry about that. Your personal connection is suffering. I'm really sorry. That sounds very unfortunate.
Opposite ends of the spectrum. Then Brian's like, "Bad luck, man," and Kevin's just like,
I'm sorry to hear it.
Yeah, I guess I'm the curmudgeon in this scenario.
That's a heck
Washington
of a-
football team. I'm sorry, Commanders.
There we go. The Washington football team, my boys.
Who has Washington? Is that you, Kevin?
I
don't
believe
even-
that's me, and I'm excited to talk some Commanders
it
because
is, yeah.
again, this is another team. It's an interesting conversation because like the Falcons, they have an incumbent. They have a guy who they're propping up as their guy. I believe I mocked Will Levis to them, and if Will
You
Levis
did.
is
They
their-
fell to 16.
at
Yeah.
16, I think it's again. I think you guys, not the biggest Levis fans, will agree that it's a sprint to the podium pick as well.
Oh, at that point, yes. It's
At
value.
16?
He's better
Yeah.
than number 16 overall.
Now,
so yeah.
I think you can safely say that they don't necessarily need much on offense. I mean, wide receiver is, Terry McLaurin's amazing, but they don't really have a ton of depth. They do have the young guys that they brought in. Who's the guy that they drafted last year he had a
Jahan
nice
Dotson.
Dotson's solid. So I don't think you want to go receiver. I think with Washington, I would go offensive line. I think with Washington, I would go bolstering the front, getting your young quarterback. Again, we isolate the variable on this show. We're huge advocates for that. Get Sam Howell, if that's your guy, get him some protection. Let us see him for what he is. And if he's running for his life or getting sacked in 1.9 seconds, we won't know if he's the guy or not. So get him some protection. And at that range in the draft, you're looking at those middle round, because they're 16. You're looking at those mid first round. I think a Broderick Jones could fall. There's DeJuan Jones. There's Darnell Wright. Those kinds of guys. I think Skoronski and Paris Johnson are very likely off the board by then. But those other guys are interesting at 16.
By the way, I've seen mocks with Bijan with the Commanders at 16.
I've heard that too. It would be a bit disappointing because you said yourself you don't want him to go to a team that's not a Bijan away. I agree with that. I would hate to see him go to a team that's got a way to go. And Gibson and Robinson, even though they absolutely hate Antonio Gibson for some reason,
It's the fumbles.
I like
Fumbles a
Gibson.
lot.
I know, yeah, he is a fumbler, but he is a stud too, though. He makes something out of nothing a lot. But
I like what you said. I think I say it a lot. Like, if they think Sam has something, now we all think we know what they've got. I believe they probably truly know what they have, but
Right.
You've got to assess it. And I've said that a couple of times. You need.
And he
to
could be great.
Right.
He beat the Cowboys in his one start. It was an upset. Dak played. It wasn't like the
Cooper
Cowboys.
Rush also went 4-0. Let's not get crazy with the small sample size here.
Cooper Rush went 4-0. I mean, exactly. He's a stud.
There we go.
He is.
All right, well let's move on after the Cooper Rush is a stud comment.
I love Cooper
Rush
Rush.
hot takes.
Back to
That
the
was
wheel,
okay.
Slim Shady. I think we have 6 teams left.
Let's go. Cooper Rush is boring Tim Tebow. How's that?
Go boring, Tim Tebow.
You winner.
Was Tim Tebow the opposite of boring? Was he exciting? I don't know that I would use that.
Absolutely. Did you watch any of the Tim Tebow games?
I watched all the Tim Tebow games.
He was so
That playoff
exciting.
game itself was exciting. Just
Amazing.
from the way it ended against
That's
the
probably my
Steelers.
favorite.
Carolina Panthers. Who has the Panthers?
That's on me. So this one here, I picked this. Look, this is a layup. We know what their need is, and we know what they're going for. It's at QB. The consensus is Bryce Young.
Nice.
The reason I took this is I wanted to just quickly, and we don't have to spend long on this because I think we all know where this is. It's a draft needs pod, and this is what they need. But I've seen some mocks putting Anthony Richardson over to them.
I've seen it too.
Frank Reich spoke very highly of him. Any thoughts? I mean, I've spoken about Anthony Richardson enough.
I wouldn't be mad.
Yeah, neither.
I wouldn't be mad.
You guys know I'm an Anthony Richardson stan, but you don't pass on Bryce Young for him. That's the one quarterback you don't pass on him for. I don't care that he's smaller. He is the most surefire QB prospect in this draft. If this guy was 6'2", 220, there would be zero questions. He would be a Trevor Lawrence. He would be an Andrew Luck. He would be a guy that just you pencil him in at the top and then go about and start to talk about who's at number 2. So that's the one quarterback I will disagree with. As much
I
as love
agree, but
Anthony
he's
Richardson.
not. I agree with you, but he's not that high. You know what I mean? Like, and that you can't.
it's
it's
true.
not nothing. It's not like it's not
This
everything.
quarterback draft class is giving the Josh Allen year because I remember everybody had Darnold going 1. And then Kuiper was like, if you don't take Josh Allen, you're a fool. And then Baker was like 4 days before the draft, it was like, it's Baker. So I'm feeling very similarly to that class, the 2018 class, in that you don't know. And they're all there's no Trevor Lawrence. There's no can't miss prospect. We've agreed upon that. If there was one, in my opinion, it's Bryce Young. But is Anthony Richardson the Josh Allen of this class where he's just got the traits, he's just got the athletic tools, and it's only a matter of time before he puts it together? That's the question.
Unless Bryce Young is a mini Mahomes, and then it doesn't
Which
matter.
is
if
super
he can,
possible. And the
you
Chiefs
know?
got Mahomes at 10. So, all that. I mean, yeah, in a vacuum, you want to get the best player the highest, but also opportunity cost and where you draft them matters a little bit, but not a ton because Daniel Jones went 6.
I also think the Panthers,
fizzled out.
the Panthers need a quarterback to start day one.
Oh, yeah.
Unless you're an offense like the Falcons,
true.
Anthony Richardson's not going to be ready to start day one. So
Yeah.
that is a bit problematic.
And they went up to 1. They paid a king's ransom.
Who they got? They got Dalton. So I mean, we really want to see Andy Dalton. I
No.
don't want to see Andy Dalton. I want to
You know
see
what's
Bryce
so
Young
funny?
start week 1.
The-
I'm tired of seeing
Adrian,
Dalton start.
On Monday's show, I started ranting about the Texans' need for a wide receiver because in my head it was so implied that they were taking one at 2 that I didn't even think about it. So you said, I'm going to make this fast. And I'm like, oh, he's going to address the fact that they traded DJ Moore and they need a wide receiver. Because in my head, they're first overall. The quarterback's already there. And
Yeah,
it's like,
I hear ya.
I forget. It's a weird, when they have 2 first-round picks and they're this high and they're chalked quarterback, Texans not so much anymore. And Brian, I boldly said I would bet you on that on the air last time. We did not privately make a bet, and I don't know if I'm
Let's
still
after the 5 teams. Let's discuss those terms. If
you might have missed your window of capitalizing. I kind of feel like a dunce now because I was like, it's gonna happen. They're taking a quarterback. Don't believe what they say, but I don't know anymore.
Now, here's the thing, just real quick on that. I'm not saying they don't take a quarterback. I'm saying they don't take a quarterback at 2.
There you go. And I think
We don't have to dive in that now. We're doing a mock
Yep.
on Monday. We'll
Yep.
talk about that. We got
That's gonna
5
be so
teams
fun.
left. Let's go back to the wheel, Slim Shady, and race towards the finish here.
let's do it.
And cue Anthony. There we go. Hold music. It's got to happen.
Here we go, baby. Final 5.
There used to be a sound when it spun, too. We got rid of that sound. Maybe that was too much for Anthony's connection as well.
It's crashing.
Go to the Bayou, New Orleans Saints.
Saints. I believe that's me.
That is Kevin. Yep.
Okay, boys. So, the Saints are an interesting one because I could see a handful of needs. I think the biggest one, given the recent restructuring of Cameron Jordan's deal, is I think defensive line is going to become a huge issue because, correct me if I'm wrong, but did they lose their studs up front? Did they lose all of them?
David Onyemata.
Onyemata's gone.
Yeah.
And Cam Jordan's in the final year of his deal now after the restructuring. So, and where they're picking, I'm looking Brian Brzee, I'm looking, interior defensive line is big, but edge too. You can never have too many pass rushers in today's NFL. And if you've already lost those guys and you're losing Cam Jordan, I think it's a no-brainer. You got to go defensive line. They did a good job addressing the quarterback position. Jerry's out on whether or not Carr is top 8, top 12, top 16, top 20, whatever. He'll comfortable. We'll decide after this year. We'll know. The variable will be isolated given that he has Michael Thomas coming back, Chris Olave, a pretty great tight end weapon in Jawan Johnson. I'm very high on him. I think you could always address the offensive line. That's the other one. Trenches, I'll say, for this team. But that's what I'm looking at mostly is defensive line, given the massive holes that are going to be there, and literally massive from losing their
completely
large
agree. Either edge or defensive tackle. However, I keep seeing offensive weapons mocked to them, whether it's tight end or wide receiver in the first round.
It's a bit weird to me because I love Olave. Yeah. I really want to give Olave as much of a chance to be funneled targets as possible. But
and Rashid Shaheed
is good.
Right.
Undrafted.
So, and then you mentioned Jawan Johnson.
Yeah.
They've got young talent.
Kamara, Jamal Williams. They have a nice.
Kamara might not play, but they still got Jamal Williams as an insurance.
To say right now, yeah.
I think if they took a weapon, they wouldn't be addressing what they really need.
Yeah.
It's a fun pick.
It would be a Band-Aid on a bullet hole.
Yeah, totally.
Yeah.
It's fun to see someone opposite like Olave, like someone who they would be pretty dynamic and give something to play with. But yeah, I'm with you. Defensive line's the way to go.
Yeah, I feel like it's the glaring one.
All right, 4 more. Close to the finish line. Back to the wheel, Slim Shady. Kevin's just providing the hold music now.
I'm just doing it for fun.
It sounds a little creepy when you do it, like
it's ominous.
Twilight Zone-esque.
Oh, here we go. This team.
All right, here we go. This is back to me. The Seattle Seahawks, sticking in the NFC West. Seahawks, a bunch of picks in the first 2 rounds, 5, 20, 37, and 52.
Sheesh.
Thank you, Denver Broncos and Russell Wilson.
Unlimited.
Pretty easy, and almost all the mocks that I've seen, short of the ones that want to put like Anthony Richardson as like a developmental quarterback behind Geno Smith, have this, and it's the defensive line, especially edge. Look, Jalen Carter could be a strong consideration there, but they did add both Draymond Jones and Jaron Reed in free agency, so they've addressed the interior. Neither of those guys are Jalen Carter, although Draymond Jones had a really solid year for Denver last year, but pass rush help. They got 2 solid cornerbacks as rookies last year. They've got some solid play and with safety with Diggs and with Jamal Adams coming back from injury. They've still got DK Metcalf and Tyler Lockett, so they've got offensive weapons. Geno, great season. They got 2 starting offensive tackles in their amazing rookie draft. Edge is still the one crucial piece that is missing. So you talk about at number 5, you're going to have Will Anderson. If it really goes QB 1 through 4, suddenly Will Anderson is there at 5. Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter, they're going to have their pick of some of these few blue chip defensive players. So if you're the Seahawks, you have another pick coming up at 20. You can address some of these other. You can put it, maybe even get a playmaker like a wide receiver, a third wide receiver to go with DK and Lockett. I'm fine with that. But at 5, go defensive line. BPA, best player available, edge or interior, and move on and wait for pick.
Couldn't agree more. Yep.
I think you put the right order there. Will Anderson, Tyree Wilson, Jalen Carter. Whoever's available.
In that order.
You should be going.
That's essentially, I did that on purpose because I'm thinking draft.
But also, Nolan Smith is maybe the most,
at 5. I mean, he's enticing. I think that the highest I've seen him. You think Nolan Smith can't miss?
Well, that's what the consensus is coming out to say. We've talked about
they're
it
coming
a lot
that he's intriguing, but he's small. His big thing is he is small.
Do you think he goes top 10?
Do I? Could he?
Adrian's
sure.
I've seen his head.
I'm saying
but
that.
There's the legit headline. I think it was yesterday. He's risen.
He is risen. I saw Dane Brugler put him at 9 with the Falcons in his mock for the Athletics.
That would fit your.
But this
Falcons.
is 5.
Yeah,
we're talking about. So that's what I mean. Like if he's flirting with the top 10, then it's like right at the end of the top 10. Nolan Smith is a little bit of a projection, not because he wasn't good in college, but because he's like 238 pounds as an edge rusher.
Yeah.
You're talking about some of these guys. Tyree Wilson is like 275. Like he's
Yeah.
literally got 40 pounds on him.
I'm
So-
just spitballing. I'm a traits guy. I still like
Oh, he's got the traits.
Anderson and Wilson more, but Walker went over at Hutchinson. Let's not forget, these things happen. These weird trait swings happen.
Walker was not 238 pounds though.
Yeah.
All right, well, that's pretty straightforward. So let's keep on rolling. I believe we have 3 teams left. Spin
Crushing it.
the wheel, Slim
Those
Shady.
are all my
We are
teams?
moving along here.
I
Hopefully
got
we
one
get
in
done.
there.
Okay, I was gonna say, I was like,
Am I done? Oh, we all have one in there. Once again, it's
No,
rigged.
it's on
fully
me.
rigged. Chicago Bears.
Alrighty. So that's on me. That's one of my NFC North rivals. Look, the Bears are a tough one. They ranked dead last defense last year. So it's a struggle to pick between offense and defense. So I think they could use an edge rusher, and a lot of mocks have it going that way. But to me, look, Justin Fields tied for the most sacks last year. So I said the same thing about the Bucs. You need to keep him on his feet. You're coming up to the end of, it's year 3. At the end of this, you're deciding on 5th-year option. Get him an offensive tackle. I'd put Skoronski there if he's available,
Yeah.
and I think, and if I'm not wrong, you guys mocked Skoronski.
We boxed Skoronski
Skoronski,
there, 100%.
Yeah.
Yep.
very
and-
nice.
Yeah, and I see that being the way to go.
Couldn't agree more.
Yeah, I think you have to. I've said it, I'm repeating myself now, but you're about to decide at the end of this year whether you pick up your 5th. You need to know who you got. I'm not super sold on Justin Fields between us and everyone listening, but
He said between us on a podcast.
Yeah,
Between everybody listening and watching.
classic understanding of how broadcasting
love
works.
it.
Yeah,
But yeah,
But-
I'm 100% in agreement with Skoronski. And there's questions:
Yeah.
is he guard?
No-brainer.
Is he tackle? I think he's one of the only slam dunk offensive line prospects in this draft, and it doesn't matter where you put him. The Bears need both. They could
Yeah.
use guard
Yeah.
improvements, and they certainly could use offensive tackle. Get a guy like Skoronski, find a place for him. He'll be starting day 1. He is going to make that protection better. He'll make the run game better. He'll make protection for Justin Fields better. Eliminating the variables, Kevin,
Yep.
truly being able to assess how good Justin Fields can be.
I like
and
Fields.
if you can't deliver on a year where you've got your wide receiver 1 now, you shore up that line. Then
I think a sneaky need, and this is more of a top end thing than a depth thing, because I think fine, Darnell Mooney, Chase Claypool, DJ Moore. I think a sneaky need is a wide receiver. I'd like to see them take one a little later, maybe with the draft haul that they got from Carolina. Maybe throw like a Quentin Johnston or a Jordan Addison or whoever you can get your hands on later in the draft. Maybe throw one of those a second round. There's so many guys that like you said, Brian. I
guess if it depends on what you feel about Chase Claypool. He kind of has that same kind of body type. I mean, Claypool had 10 touchdowns as a rookie. And we've already written him
pulled
off.
so hard. I mean, it's been 3 years. You know what I mean?
Yeah,
like you're
that's
saying
true.
already, but it's it's not. He might still be on his rookie deal, but this is probably the last year, and he's been wildly unimpressive since. I don't know. I like Clay. I'm a Notre Dame guy. I like Claypool, but that's.
I think there's still a lot of needs on that defense. Chicago's another one of those teams. They've got a lot of assets
but
now.
their defense got a lot better.
They're exciting. Yes and no. They still have edge is still a big need.
They have
Defensive interior.
They have one of the best linebacker rooms in the league off of just free
I know.
agency.
Okay,
period.
but linebacker is one of the least important position groups on the defense, right?
Yeah, that's fair.
Secondary, defensive line,
Yeah,
edge. Those
sure.
are things you have to
I
address.
like Brisker.
Maybe before
I'm a
another
big
wide
Jaquan
receiver.
Brisker fan. I like Jalen Johnson.
Yeah.
There's
They have
talent,
pieces.
but you're right.
They have
You're
pieces,
totally right.
but-
Yeah, they could flesh out the defense a lot more for sure.
All right, we got 2 left.
O-line and wide receiver for sure. Yeah, let's keep it
Cowboys
moving.
or Rams.
If it lands on
spin
me-
that wheel.
If it lands on me, if it lands on the Rams, I'm just gonna say everyone, and you can spin again. Every position.
Okay, fair enough.
The Rams.
Fair enough.
There we go.
The old
And it is
Cardinals
going
treatment.
to.
No, if we're gonna let's play out the string here. Let's be fair here. To the Rams fans, the devout Rams fans, they're a great fan base. The Rams. Slightly sarcastic. I apologize. Yeah, no. So the Rams. So I think they could use a quarterback. I don't think Stafford has much left. I would love to see them add a quarterback. I don't know if they'll do it in this draft because they probably think Stafford has a little left in the tank. But the injuries, the shoulder, the back, I just think it might be time. He got his ring. I think he's probably going to be a Hall of Famer now. Shout out to Anthony. Well, that'll be a fun discussion.
That's a future discussion.
I
for
think
sure.
that'll be a fun. I think he belongs. He's got a ring. He's got some of the most regular season success of all time. Cam Akers is fine. They got rid of Henderson last year, so they could definitely use, I think, a bolster to the running back room, a shot in the arm there. Offensive line is not great. Bit of a disaster.
That's not good at all. It was one of the worst lines in the NFL last year.
Yeah, they somehow, some way, they did pave the way for Cam Achilles to absolutely go bonkers at the end of the year. Don't know how that happened. But wide receiver, they just traded their highly paid wide receiver 2, their big ticket free agent.
Not that he didn't really produce
last
offseason. Didn't deliver
no,
like
he
a
was
wide
horrible,
receiver.
but he's gone now. So we're looking at what? Cooper Kupp and Ben Skoranek. Wide receiver is a huge need. Hey, look, a position that they don't suck at, tight end. They got Tyler Higbee.
And defensive tackle. Although Aaron Donald might retire in the next year or two, for all we know.
He might retire tomorrow. He might pull an Andrew Luck.
Jalen Ramsey gone.
Ramsey gone. I'm so sorry, Rams fans, but you got your ring. That's what we keep saying that, and we'll keep saying that. That has to be a precursor
to
any
NFC
Rams
West.
discussion.
The Niners and Seahawks are just like, it's just between us two.
The Rams are in the same boat as the Cardinals. They're just a dumpster fire this year, and nobody's mad. They might lose Sean McVay. He might go work for Amazon. That could just happen like this, and nobody's gonna fault him. Nobody's gonna be mad at their lack of future success. But they lost safety Taylor Rapp, Jalen Ramsey, Bobby Wagner. They have nothing. I'm just being completely honest. Their draft lead is
Leonard Floyd. Not that he was a huge addition, but these are all pieces.
Yeah, they have a lot to.
I think it's nice that they get that. They get that leash because it's like no one is mad because they got the ring. We talked about it.
I would happily have the whole Dolphins roster get torn down if I could get a freaking Super Bowl trophy. So
give me 3 years of Brett Huntley, but give me a ring before it.
Literally,
you know what I'm saying?
Literally, it's all good. It's all good. Rams, don't. Like I said, I'm not trashing you, but you need everything.
All right, we are coming up on an hour and a half in the show, so let's send it home.
Wrap
with
it
the
up.
Dallas Cowboys. I guess spin it for posterity or whatever. Yeah.
Oh my God, no! What we need to do, we need to bring in the wheel in the future and have the bum 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 bum.
Oh yeah! Once again, copyright issues, but I love where your head's at.
I'll just
only
make
an issue till they sue.
I'll just do that.
That's true. That's a good point. Well, according to the guy Whips who was in the chat earlier, we're underrated. So when we're properly rated, we might not be able to get away with stuff like that. All right, let's finish it up with the Dallas Cowboys picking at 26 in the first round and 58 in the second round. My first notes here, sneaky good roster. Like, they've actually had a pretty solid offseason. This is a team that made the playoffs last year, won their first playoff game decisively over Tom Brady and the Bucs, addressed needs at wide receiver with Brandon Cooks, cornerback with Stephon Gilmore. They still running back depth. I'm a big Pollard fan. I think Pollard should have his year to be the lead guy, but there's no one really else behind him. They do need to address running back, but I wouldn't put that at number one. Tight end, certainly.
True.
With Dalton Schultz now in Houston, they've got Ferguson and Hendershot, but nobody that you're ready to do. Interior offensive line could still be Connor McGovern out the door, but it's still interior defensive line. When I was looking at this defense, you've got Micah Parsons, you got DeMarcus Lawrence, Leighton Vander Esch. I mentioned the cornerbacks, and you got a decently strong couple of safeties, but interior defensive line, huge hole here. So picking at 26, guys like Brian Brisset, Mozzie Smith out of Michigan. If Kalijah Cansey falls, you're slamming that card in and putting him in the interior. Because you can get a guy to disrupt the interior on what Lawrence and Parsons have already been able to do, suddenly that Cowboys defense, which is already one of the best in the NFL, becomes even better and helps them take that next step, especially competing in a division with the Eagles. If they're going to go tight end, Dalton Kincaid, Michael Mayer, but Michael Myers is like Halloween. But I think between those two positions, unless there's no good candidates, which there should be, I would choose to go defensive tackle. If Bijan's there at 26, yes, Jerry, fine, go take Bijan, but I just don't see him falling that far.
No.
During last year, I was writing a betting blog for sports betting, and I had the question of, how do the Dolphins how have the Cowboys gone 4-0 with Cooper Rush? And my answer was defense. Like their defense around Michael Parsons is amazing.
Yeah.
Add some weapons, like add more to that. It's just going to be, I would put it number 1 in the league, top 3.
Good defense.
Yeah.
Very good
49ers
defense.
and Eagles, I'd probably put ahead of them, but top
Eagles,
3 to 5.
I don't know
for
anymore
sure.
with the losses.
Maybe not
but
this.
yeah.
Correct.
Yeah.
We have to see.
Yeah, there's going to be a lot, and the draft will have a lot to sway all of that. But yeah, Cowboys have a fantastic defense. Love the call of defensive tackle though. You can never have too many large humans clogging both sides.
Well,
of
that and
the
they don't
line.
really have anybody of note in the interior. They've
Yeah.
got their amazing edge rushers and no one in the middle, so they could use
Yeah.
somebody. And I'd like to see them take defensive tackle, interior defensive line, and with that pick 26.
I frustrated Brian to the point where smoke was coming out of his ears when I mocked Jahmyr Gibbs to the Cowboys at 26. Now,
Yeah,
you
that's
said
not
yourself,
you don't unless
running
it's
back
Bijan.
depth-
Yeah,
running back depth is a need though.
it is. But this is a deep running back
Do you
class,
think
and
Gibbs
you don't.
is there for their second pick?
He doesn't have to be. There's lots of other great running backs.
I like Sean
Zach
Tucker.
Charbonnet. I like
Charbonnet's
Tyjae
good.
Spears.
Yeah.
I think there's only one first round running back. I think that's fair
Yeah.
to say. And
That's it's all about.
Are you guys
their second
predicting
pick at like
or-
50, 58? Okay, that.
I would be shocked if there wasn't a sneaky second running back late in the. I would be shocked if Gibbs didn't sneak his way into the top of the.
I'll take you up on that. Gibbs isn't getting drafted in the first round.
Brian, we are gonna have the longest betting card ever for draft night. I cannot wait.
this is an episode waiting to happen.
Oh my
Yeah,
god, I'm excited.
We're gonna have props. We'll figure out some props and then we'll
Gotta do some
revisit them
props.
after the first round.
Yeah, for
because
sure.
our Friday show next week we'll be breaking down the first round. That'll be the
right.
main topic.
Yeah.
Just
Oh, I
putting
can't
it out
wait.
there right now.
Salivating.
All right, that is it. We have now gone through all 32 teams and told you what their number 1 draft need is. It's a longer show, but it was well worth it. Game's over, guys. We made it through the marathon. How you guys feeling?
Fantastic. Just ready for the
Amazing.
draft.
Adrian's like, it's not 4 a.m. I feel fantastic.
I don't have to go back to bed. I'm actually
Adrian.
after this.
You are just as fantastic at 6 p.m. as you are at 4 a.m.
It's
so
not 6,
happy to hear that,
it's 6
'cause
p.m. our time. It's what time is
9
it?
a.m.
Like,
over
I don't
here.
even know what time
Yeah.
it is. Oh,
I'm
it's
actually-
just normal morning. Okay.
Yeah,
It's still morning.
regular
just
time that I'm
normal.
awake. I'm headed straight from here to the people watching the show. I got speaking of big humans, I got a tiny human on the way, so I'm heading straight from here to
Woohoo!
birthing classes. Woohoo!
Ooh,
I'm
that's
not giving
fun.
birth. My wife is obviously giving birth. but I like
Congrats.
to take credit.
Yeah, wait a spoiler alert. Adrian is not actually going to pull a junior.
I always say we're pregnant because I like to take credit for things that I don't do, and this is one of them.
She couldn't have gotten
Fantastic.
pregnant alone. I
Yeah.
mean, you did it. You played a part, my friend. All right, we will wrap it up there.
Great
Thank you
stuff.
so much. We had a nice, lively chat. Appreciate everybody who came by and liked and subscribed, and the guy who had 6 accounts sub to us. So really appreciate you.
Whirly.
Love to see you back. Thanks to Oscar. Got to give Oscar a shout out, who is always first in our Instagram videos. Thank
We
you
missed
to
Armand. We
Adrian
missed you, Phoenix.
from Australia, Kevin, my
Kato.
partner in Prime. We will be back here on Monday for our next live mock 2.0 with trades. We're going to have Jimmy Ray. That's going to be a fun exercise. Still not sure how we're going to pull it off with the trades,
I got
but we
some
will
thoughts.
figure that out. So 7 o'clock Eastern, 4 p.m. Pacific, whatever time it is in Australia, Adrian, I have no idea. I guess 9 a.m.
I'll be
on
watching.
Tuesday. All right. So thank you so much. Appreciate you. Enjoy the weekend. This has been the Legit Football NFL Podcast. We'll see you on Monday.